Okay, welcome to the show, Mr. Robbie Mould.
Hi,
Hey,
Arthur.
Robbie.
Thank you very much for having me on the pod.
Great to have you here, man. And you wouldn't believe it, actually. You are my first British guest on the show.
Fantastic. Hopefully, we'll treat you gently, mate, and pop your cherry gently.
I think I'm going to be drifting into the season of the Brits, of the British entrepreneurs, and I'll describe you as an entrepreneur by heart. You've run multiple businesses over the years, and we can get into that a little bit more later. But currently, Robbie, you're the founder and managing director of Mativus.
Yes, that's right. So we're a specialist website agency, and what we do is that we build very high performing, very secure, but ultimately lead generating websites for growing and scaling businesses.
Okay. And I guess me knowing, but not the listeners knowing, that's not where you originally started, was it? You originally had a marketing agency first, and you've kind of pivoted along that journey. Can you tell me why you wanted to focus on websites in particular?
Well, the journey that I've been on and we've been as a company, because we're a team of five slash six now, is when I first set up, we focused predominantly on the websites, working with small to medium sized enterprises. And then one of the things that people often tell you is that you should sell, the easiest people to sell to are your existing customers, which is absolutely true. So I went down that journey of branching out to different services, different revenue streams, going down the SEO route, social media, Google Ads, and what have you. And we still serve some of our customers doing that. But actually now, as I look to scale and grow the business, and there's been a couple of books that I've read or podcasts that I've listened to, and speaking to other entrepreneurs who have been in my journey and got there, they've basically recommended in agency world, it's best to specialize on one thing, make sure you do that really, really, really well, and then it becomes much easier to scale and grow. So my journey was, okay, got to the point where we had really good revenue streams, doing lots of things, but find it difficult to take it to that next level, and without having to employ lots and lots of staff, bring lots of overheads, and also think about innovation and how we can do things better. So we just got to the point where we thought, well, okay, what do we do really well? And it's actually the website design and development, and then what can we specialize in that particular niche? And then obviously we've gone down the route that we have.
Awesome, man. And definitely keen to get under the hood into some website and like AI questions. But
Sure.
before that, I guess, how did you get into starting the business, I guess RJM Digital before, around specifically taking the leap into entrepreneurship and starting that business? What made you want to get into it in the first place?
Well, as you said in the intro, this is my second business. So my first business was when I was 24, and I set up an IT reseller, again called RJM Technology. As you can tell, I'm very innovative and original with the brand names that I come up with. And that was born from working for a large corporate, reselling infrastructure, servers, data storage, that type of thing. And then just realizing that actually I want to work for myself. I want to be self-employed. I want to take those risks. I want to try and grow something spectacular. And then so I just, at 24 or 23, whatever it was, you have very, very little risk. I just had to pay my rent. You sort of a bit naive with everything, and so I grew that business. Ultimately that failed, unfortunately, and then I had to go back into corporate world. So this next step, after I was doing freelancing for software development houses, or come up with a couple other little my own projects, it was just a natural progression to take it from freelance mode to a full-blown agency.
Yeah, okay. And why do you think it failed, I guess? Like thinking of business models, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, so that first business, it was very much reliant on selling other people's products, and if EMC or the Dell or whoever I was reselling, if they didn't want you to do the deal, you could put all the work in, but they could take it away from you straight away if you didn't have the real strategic relationship with the company that you were selling to. So one, that's a big risk to the customer, to the business, but also it's not starting the month on zero every single time. So what would happen is that I would sell a load of servers or a load of storage systems to a company, do the deal, and then the following month I literally had to find another one and basically start on zero. So for me, that's a very bad business model, because you have regular outgoings as a business, whether it be payroll, rent, software subscriptions. But if you have a business model that doesn't complement that, then that could be a real issue.
Yeah. So I guess you had that in mind going into starting the next business, was recurring revenue, trying to
Yes.
get something
Yeah.
rolling over.
Yeah, exactly. So again, not starting that month on zero, having that subscription service, having something that is very sticky, and a website generally is quite sticky. So it's obviously very competitive. It's a very saturated market out there. But once you get in there and you do a good job and you maintain a really good customer service, then generally a website, our lifetime average with a customer is at least 5 years. And obviously, if you have good recurring revenue within that, then that's a business model.
Yeah. And I guess, on the business model side, if you can have a buy-in right at the start, which
Yeah.
gets the customer kind of committed or in the door perhaps, and then having that roll over every month is massively advantage as a business model. And the websites in particular, so I've heard you throwing around the term headless websites, and I had to research what that means. But you do websites a little bit different to traditional website developers I've spoken with. Can you tell me more about your model with Mativus?
Yep. So it is a technical sale or technical play. So most websites, what we call monolithic or traditional websites, you have the front end, which is what we all see in the Chrome or Safari browser. And then that's called the front end. And then where you actually upload all of your content, so your images, the copy, videos, that type of thing, that is traditionally within a CMS or a content management system called the back end. And most of the time they're on the same server and they're tightly coupled together. Now, the challenges with that is that it can be very expensive if you want the website to run really quickly, but it also has lots of vulnerabilities from a security perspective, because if someone can hack through the front end, then they can directly access your CMS and basically delete all of your content. They could just completely block you from accessing it. So what we do is, rather than having it very vulnerable on one server, we split the two in half and put them on different servers. And so that means that if one goes down, it doesn't affect the other.
Right. Okay. And there'd probably be more implications with that with speed, right? I guess because you're more efficient, you could have a less processing power or environmental impact side of things as well. Is that what you see? Like, do you market yourself that way as well?
100%. Yeah. So certainly on the speed and ironically on the sustainability side as well, is what we do is that we put it on a distributed network of servers, the front end. So thousands of servers across the globe. So it means that if one of those servers goes down, it just fails over to the other. And it means that if your friends and colleagues are in New Zealand, they're not having to access a server over in the UK and vice versa. They're accessing a server within New Zealand. So that makes it really, really quick and highly efficient and sustainable as well, because it means that you're not having to buy servers that are not being used effectively enough. So it just means it drastically reduces your energy consumption, and if something is more efficient, then that's better for sustainability as well.
Yeah, well, that's better for the planet. We need more website developers like you, Robbie.
It's becoming a growing trend. Unfortunately, I didn't invent the term. I sort of jumped on. I saw the very, very niche within a niche, and I was very disbelieving that a website did have a carbon footprint. It's one of the few things that we actually think about. But actually, when you think about the infrastructure, the data centers, the servers, the cooling of all of those servers, data centers across the globe, and you think how much power is actually being used or how much energy is being consumed by these data centers, then you can see why the carbon footprint of the internet is actually worse than the aviation industry. And so little old Robbie Mould was thinking, well, okay, that's a pretty big thing, especially as we love to blame the airlines for climate change, whereas actually us accessing websites, us doing this on this podcast, being on a Zoom call, ChatGPT is another massive issue. We're all contributing our bit quite significantly by just using the internet.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? And it's often, I guess, forgot about when you just kind of sign in the computer, like,
Yep.
doing your daily activities. It's very hard to quantify. So there could be some tracking tools or gap in the market around how people measure that. I know I've interviewed people in the past around kind of tracking emissions, but I don't think we've got a good grasp as humanity on what we're doing and the path that we're going. I remember recently I saw Sam Altman came out and said, like, humans are costing the planet millions by saying please and thank you into ChatGPT all the time. And that, I do that. Well, I did that because I was like, one day the AI bots are going to take over. I want to have them on my side, but I've now stopped thanking and being polite to AI, which feels a bit rude.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's also the same with emails as well. So just as many thank you emails or noted, that also contributes the same as the power consumption for AI. And that's something that's been brought up for years and years ago. But obviously now everyone's talking about ChatGPT, and Sam Altman has got a very strong personal brand. But so if you're not saying thank you to AI, that's great. But also no need to say thank you. Just a one line thank you on your email addresses, on your emails as well.
Yeah, good food for thought that is easily missed.
Absolutely.
And you're someone that I feel has always had your your finger on the pulse with AI. You seem to be bringing kind of nuggets of knowledge every time I had chats with you. How would you say that AI has influenced the website game and building websites over the last kind of couple of years?
Well, I would say it's accelerated over the past 6 months, and lots of agency owners in my space are fearful, especially because we've always done it one way. So the agency model for websites is we sit down with a customer, we will map everything out for you, we'll do a couple of sketches, send that to you for approval, then we'll come up with maybe 1 or 2 designs, send that to you for approval, and then it can take weeks or months. With AI now, and we're playing around with a couple of tools, especially one called Bolt.new, where you can literally just speak to ChatGPT about the website that you want and the look and the feel, and you can upload examples that you like the look of. Ask ChatGPT to write a prompt, sends that prompt to Bolt.new, and then within a minute, it can build you a full-blown 5-10 page website with copy, AI generated images, good SEO, following SEO best practices, within a matter of minutes. Whereas for us humans, that traditionally takes us weeks, if not months, to do.
Yeah, shit. That kind of opens up a few things, doesn't it? It's like one side is like, right, that's very scary for website developers. Two is there's probably some website developers out there that would say, okay, I'm going to just let the bots do the work, charge the same fees. Like, there could be an increased profit margin, but I suspect that wouldn't last for long, right? Like the ethical thing is to try and pass that knowledge on to the consumer or your customers. How have you leveraged it at the moment? Like, does that mean that you're trying to sell more websites or trying to do bigger, better things with that processing power? Yeah, what's your approach?
It's bigger and better things, and that's why we've specialised down the route that we've gone as well. So whether it's obviously with the headless, we mentioned about the sustainability side of things. So AI can be quite inefficient, and anyone who's asked it to write a blog article, for example, knows that it will just give you pages and pages and pages and lots of fluff and lots of gumph in there. Whereas actually you could have written that article in half the amount of time if you got a human to do it properly. So that's one of the things. So that's where we come in and say, look, we can use AI or we can incorporate it in the part of our processes, but we will use our specialist knowledge to make it as efficient or sustainable as possible. But also it's just leveraging our experience about what makes a website work for a business. So whilst it's great to have headless and it's great to be sustainable, ultimately a website should always be an asset to the business that actually generates you revenue and generates profit for you, rather than it being a cost center or a liability. So where we come in is saying, right, okay, we can design you a very pretty website. but ultimately it's got to generate you leads or generate you revenue. And it's using our experience of what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past. That's where we can deploy our specialist knowledge and our expertise to make a website, make sure it actually is an asset for your business.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I guess that will probably be a shift of focus for you around targeting customers. How
Yeah.
Has that been the case, and how, if so, what have you done to change your approach
Yeah.
around that?
I think that would be a natural evolution. I think where AI is really, really good at, and where it's going to become very powerful for entrepreneurs, listening to on this podcast or thinking about setting up a business, is that you can literally just type in a couple of prompts and say, build me my first website or build me my first app. That MVP, the minimal viable product, just to get something off the ground. Especially if anyone's read Lean Startup, where they say, look, just do the bare minimum that you need to see if there's a demand for what you're actually trying to build. That's where AI can be so powerful, and it's going to be immensely powerful, where you can just, in a couple of prompts, build that MVP within a matter of days, put some Google ads on it or some social media posts around it, see if there's a demand or traffic. And if there is, it's validated, and then you take the next step. Or if it's not validated, you go, actually, that's not a great idea, there's not a demand for it. At least you're not wasting weeks or months trying to develop an MVP where there is just no demand. So that's where AI is going to be really powerful. Where we would like to come in is once you've established your company or your MVP or whatever, and you want to take it to the next level, that's where human specialism and expertise can really help drive the growth of your business. And that's where we want to eventually come in for most of our customers.
Yeah, I love that thought. If someone's listening, thinking about trying to give something a go, jumping on that AI tool that you're talking about, having a landing page, for example. I know what Daniel Priestley always talks about is waiting lists. So, if you're testing out a business idea, creating like a landing page, which, that tool you're talking about could do that.
Yep.
And then signing up people as a waiting list to prove out the fact that actually people want what you're saying. And before going down the road of like spending a lot of money and trying to start that business up.
And time as well, which is the crucial thing. So it's not necessarily money when it comes to AI, it's just the rapid speed. So you could literally wake up in the morning, come up with a business idea that just come out of nowhere. And by the end of the day, you can have everything set up, ready to go to test the market. That is the power of AI. Even if you have millions and millions of pounds to spend, it's about getting there first and testing that idea straight away. That's where it's going to be really powerful.
Yeah, and it's exciting, I think.
Immensely exciting, yeah. Exactly.
People can have some bright spark idea and give it a crack, fail fast, fail early, and then fail forward is the thing as well, right? Trying to take those lessons, what didn't work, and then giving it another crack.
Yeah, 100%. And the great thing with AI, and this is why I'm super passionate about it and excited about it, is that, again, it's just reducing those barriers to entry of starting a business. You imagine 20, 30 years ago, depending on what the business was, obviously, those barriers to entry were still really high. You still had to have a lot of capital up front. And obviously, as technologies come about, especially with social media, being able to promote your company or product, that has reduced the barriers to entry. You don't have to rely on expensive radio ads or television ads to get out there. Social media has definitely been a fantastic tool, with lots of controversies obviously with it, but from a business perspective, very powerful to gain traction of what you do. And AI is just going to, again, reduce those barriers to entry for those budding entrepreneurs. So there should really be no excuse now for anyone who has an idea that wants to do it. You can't really blame that you don't have the resources or the tools now. It's your resourcefulness. It's the
Yeah, and I love to. I've spent many long nights talking shit about business ideas into the early hours. So if anyone's listening to this and has given it a crack, I would love to hear what they've done, how it's gone, because that's the part of the reason I'm starting running the podcast, right? And with that in mind, is there any other kind of AI tools or tips or tricks that you've seen that could work around specifically starting or growing businesses at the moment, Robbie?
To honest, ChatGPT is becoming so immensely powerful. There are many tools out there, for example, like Claude, Gemini. Obviously, you've got Microsoft Copilot, but that's basically ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is still by far the best AI tool to use for one, just validating ideas or just exploring ideas. I talk to it all the time, whether it be through the voice app or just writing stuff down, say, look, I've got this idea for this app or for this marketing plan. Could you help me understand whether it would be useful for my target audience? If you just speak to it like you would do as we are now, it can be immensely powerful. And a really cool feature that's been added is that if you ask it to, say, log a feature request, for example. So I've got one where we're developing an in-house app, and obviously loads of feature ideas come to my head, and I just ask it to store it. It now asks you a follow-up question to say, have you thought about this feature, or have you thought about this addition? And again, it's just becoming more and more useful for the business owners or entrepreneurs or anyone really.
Yeah, I only recently, about a month ago, discovered that I can talk to my chat GBT. I've named my bot Gary.
Okay.
And when I discovered it, I was walking around Clapham Common in London, and he was just taking me on a walking tour of the things I've seen. I was like, wow, this is mind blowing. And then I've started using it, like you said, for the business. For people, are there any ways that you would, or you could describe how people should talk to it or try to get the most out of it? Like, I know that the phrasing of, be a professional marketer or be a SEO specialist when asked questions like that. Do you do that stuff as well, or?
Yeah, 100%. So if we're writing a blog article, for example, or if we're writing a social media post, then we will always ask it to say, right, our target audience is X. So that could be 25 to 30-year-olds, budding entrepreneurs that are looking to start their first business. That is our target audience. We want to sound professional, conversational. We want to use less tech jargon, or you can say, actually, I want a 10-year-old to understand what this concept is or what have you. So if you can preempt it or guide it as to who your target audience is and what you want it to sound like and give it as much information as possible, then you will get so much better results. What we're also noticing now is that AI tends to use familiar words, concepts, that type of thing. So, for example, we've got a banned list at Mativus now that says AI is not allowed to use unlock, elevate, transform, or those M dashes. Because those really long dashes, they sort of seem to come from nowhere. If anyone has read LinkedIn posts or read a blog article, and I think people are going to start realizing that this is AI generated content, and authenticity is going to become a big driving factor for companies, for individuals over the next coming years, because if we can sniff that it's AI generated, it loses that authenticity, and therefore you lose credibility and trust with your audience or your customers or what have you. So you kind of got to make sure that you keep a step ahead of the game, spot those trends, because you can almost probably guess that 80, 90, maybe 95% of content on LinkedIn or social media is AI generated in terms of copy. And so if you spot those patterns, then you need to make sure you eliminate that from yourself when you use AI.
Yeah, and it's definitely quite obvious in some scenarios, but it will become harder and harder, I guess, potentially with what you're saying.
Well, hopefully it will, as people get to use it more effectively. It is a tool. Yes, I feel it could be quite revolutionary in 10, 15 years time, or maybe even sooner. But at the moment, it's a tool. And if you're using your tools badly, then you'll get bad results. But if you use them well, you obviously get very good results. And at the moment, most people are still unsure how to use it. So they'll just go in and say, right, write me a blog post about X, Y, and Z. And it just comes back with all AI gumph. But with just a few tweaks and learning how to engineer those prompts well, then it can make a world of difference.
Yeah, I love that. Using tools badly. I've done plenty of that in the past.
That's why I don't do DIY. I just, soft hands. Never touched a screwdriver in my life.
I used a stick blender for the first time trying to make a soup the other day, and that was me using a tool badly.
Yeah, been there, done that many times.
Robbie, exciting time to be in the industry that you're in. What's the direction you want to head in? Are you open to whatever comes your way, or are you trying to specifically go down a path that you've kind of planned out?
I think at the moment, we have to embrace the rapid change in from my business perspective, like website or web development,
Mm.
look at respond to the rapid changes and not be too disheartened if I've done for the past 5 or 6 years ultimately gets very commoditized or automated through AI, and then just figure out, okay, I'm very comfortable with my level of specialism or expertise. It's then just figuring out, right, okay, what can be done through AI, what can't be done through AI, what could be done through AI, but people still value that human expertise, and then try and figure out a business model. So, for example, medical care, right? AI could be phenomenal for diagnosis or coming up with looking at massive pools of data and then diagnosing people with very rare or rarely untreated diseases or illnesses or ailments or what have you. But I would find it very exceptional if people just used AI to diagnose themselves, to understand what the treatment plan is, and solely rely on that treatment. There's still going to be that need for that human expertise to either use AI to speed up the diagnosis process or to reduce the cost of delivering medical care, or at least just to say, yeah, AI, based upon my 30 years experience, AI has told you the right thing, but I would actually tweak this, that, the other. That's where I think AI and humans are going to work really, really well together.
Love that. Love that, man. Well, exciting times, as I said before. We're coming up on time here, Robbie, and
Okay.
I've got a tradition where I ask the same question to
Okay.
every guest on the show, which is that if you were looking down the barrel at a younger self, before you'd relocated to Dubai, before you'd gone into, I guess, let's use, your second business, RGM Digital, and then Mativus. What advice would you be giving yourself before you kicked things off?
Start now. Start sooner. I think even though I'm a business owner, entrepreneur, and what have you, I always regret the time that I didn't start soon enough, because especially now with what I've just said about previously about making it so much easier to develop an idea or a business idea, the moment you have it, or the moment you start feeling that desire or that burning desire of being a business owner, that's the time to do it. Don't dilly dally. Don't waste any more time. Just do it. And that's what I would always say to my younger self and say to my children and what have you, is that if you really want to do it and you feel that you want to do it, just start. Don't delay and waste any time.
Nice, man. I love that. And Robbie, how would people find you if they want to come talk to you about headless websites and about leveraging AI?
Yep. Okay. So I'm on LinkedIn, Robbie Mould. I'm also on Instagram as well. So robbiemould.rjm digital. Still got the old brand name. And then you can hit me up on mativus.com website as well.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been my pleasure.
Thanks, Arthur. Thanks for inviting me to the pod.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.